White phosphorus is a chemical that burns when exposed to oxygen. It is a solid wax-like substance, right, that burns at 800 degrees Celsius, which is possible to melt a number of metals. Now, when we look at the history of the use of white phosphorus in warfare, right, we see it being used in a number of places, right? And a number of countries do possess this weapon and use it. For example, the US uses this weapon. Russia also uses this weapon. We can also add China to that list, right? But in this video, we'll be focusing on the use of white phosphorus by the Israeli Defense Force, particularly in the Middle East, right? Now, when we look at the number of wars in which white phosphorus was used by the Israeli Defense Forces, right? They first used it in 2006, right, against when there was a war against Lebanon, right, particularly in the south of Lebanon and north of Israel. They used it there. They also used it in 2008, right, and 2009 when there was a war between Hamas and the Israeli Defense Forces. And it is recently recorded that in October of 2023, right, white phosphorus was used in Gaza and it was used again in Lebanon, particularly south of Lebanon. Now, as I said, white phosphorus is allowed to be used in warfare, right? It does not fall under the type of war of weaponry that is known as chemical weapons, right? That fall under the category of weapons of mass destruction. No, it does not fall under that category, right? It is used in warfare for a number of reasons. Number one, to conceal the movements of the ground forces, right? Number two, to create some sort of smoke screen to protect the infantry. And number three, it is used to mark targets that must be hit in the battlefield. Yes, but white phosphorus is not allowed to be used on civilians, right? The innocent people that you find in a country. It can be used against military targets and personnel, but not against civilians. Now, when used against civilians, it has a number of negative after effects, right? The first one is known as respiratory um, diseases, right? Problems develop in the respiratory system of human beings that have been breathing the smoke of white phosphorus, right? And number two, it is causes vision impairment. It can damage your sight, right, to a point where you can go blind, right? And it burns profusely if it lands on the human skin. So, in the recent war, there are a number of reports that claim that the Israeli Defense Forces have used white phosphorus on civilians. So, a report and investigation is happening in regards to this, and we'll see if they did. But they did admit in 2006 and in 2008 in using white phosphorus on civilians. So, but we don't know exactly if they will admit or if them using white phosphorus on civilians is true for the war that is happening in Gaza currently.